Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're going to go ahead and get started. I just want to say thank you so much for joining us on this call tonight. I want to personally thank each of you for doing your part to ensure that Saginaw has a brighter future and a better tomorrow because you guys are active in our community. So I just want to let you know that I'm so appreciative. Know that the COVID-19 virus has really affected all of us in one way or another. So I want you to know that you all are in my thoughts and prayers. It seems day by day that this is hitting closer and closer to home. But I just want to encourage you guys, don't be weary, just stay strong and follow the governor's recommendations because that's what's going to keep us safe and get us through by staying home, staying inside. So I just wanted to let you guys know the purpose of this conversation tonight is for me to share my thoughts, but more importantly, it's for me to listen. We have a really dynamic group of panelists who are joining us tonight. So we are going to have some questions and answers. So I just want to encourage you guys, if you are joining us via video chat on our Zoom, to go ahead and put your questions in the comment section below. And we might not get to all of them, but I will be sure to get you a response. I think it's just really important at this time, especially, that we have factual information. There's so much that's going on right now, and we want to make sure that folks have the right answers and correct information. For folks who are on the call, you can hit *9 if you're on the phone, and that will allow you to raise your hand and be put in the queue when it's time for question and answers. We know that our district has a very robust Latinx community, and the Latinx community is represented nearly by 15% of our district. So I just want to let you know that your free to check out some of my top priorities at clintbryant.com. We also have our website in Spanish. Or to be a volunteer, you can contribute, order a yard sign. So yeah, we are going to jump right in because I want to introduce our panel tonight. First on our panel, we have Carmen Stricker. She is the Assistant Director of Freshman Services at Saginaw Valley State University. Thank you for joining us, Carmen. We also have Armando Ramos. He's owner and operator of our beloved Tony's Takeout on Michigan in my old neighborhood and his old neighborhood. He also works for the Michigan Laborers District Council. So thank you, Armando, for joining us tonight. We have Bobby De Leon, President of the Mexican American Council. Bobby, thank you so much for joining us. And then we have Dan Sosa Jr. He's a director at Samaritas, the community center, also known as, for many of us, the neighborhood house. Is that right, Dan? Yes. And then we have, last but not least, my good friend Monica Reyes. She has a bio that is as long as my Christmas list. She is so active in our community. She is the chair of the Hispanic Latino Commission of Michigan, and she also serves as the director of the Great Lakes Bay Hispanic Leadership Institute. Her and Dan are also teaming up and working on our census. We had a little bit of a conversation before we went live about the census and what those numbers look like. And we will be talking about that tonight because it is critical. In 2020, we cannot allow for our community to go underfunded and underrepresented. We cannot allow for that to happen. And a big component of that is the census. And in 2010, Michigan was the only state with a loss of population that equated to not only a loss of representation in Congress, but nearly $1 billion in federal funding. That's huge. We can't let that happen again. And I know that as we get into our conversation, Monica and Dan are going to tell us a little bit more about what we can do to create awareness about that in each of our communities. So thank you guys so much. I know there's many other things that you guys could be doing at your home tonight, but the fact that you guys came together, it means so much to me. So let's jump in. For folks who are joining us on the call, I just wanted to say it again. Please press *9 to raise your hand, and we will get to your questions for our question and answer portion. We do have some formulated questions, but as soon as those come in, we will make sure we have our team working to organize those right now. But I do want to start off our conversation tonight by asking this question. What is the most pressing issue that's facing the Hispanic and Latin community in Saginaw, but also the state of Michigan? You know, what is the most pressing issue? And let's start with Monica. I'm going to have them unmute you, Monica. I think you might have been on mute. It's okay. This is our new normal. We're still all adjusting.
Okay,
there we
sorry.
go.
Okay.
That's okay.
Yeah. So I was saying that there's a lot of pressing issues, but it depends on which lens you're looking through.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have someone in the community working on different things, but Latino community, we represent the future of our nation, especially our state. And you mentioned that Michigan lost population. We would have lost a lot more population if the count of Latinos hadn't increased. So we definitely had effect on the last count. But we represent the future. We're consistently growing and in influence and importance. But let's face facts. You know, the Latinos in Michigan, we have to work harder. And our importance in this upcoming election and the census cannot be overstated. And we heard it over and over again, that this is the perfect storm, the perfect opportunity for Latinos to make it happen. And we can do this now. In terms of the census, responding to the census is the building block of our future in our community and in our state. And we have to have our voice heard. And in order to do that, we have to be counted. So they know that we exist and we live here and our population is growing. So we missed a lot of opportunities in the last one and we're not going to do it again. With that said, it's important that we remember that the Latino community is the most underinvested community population here in our country. And that's because we're not recognized, because we weren't counted, and we need to be counted to be recognized. So we have to use our numbers to be counted in the census, and we have to use our numbers to be on that voting booth and show our power and how much influence we can have. And this is why we call it the perfect storm for Latinos. And so we have to remember, in order to be recognized, we have to be counted. In order to be recognized, we have to get out there and vote. So I think those are pressing issues in our community. I'm sure the others will have other things to share.
Yeah, let me pose that question. Thank you, Monica. That was great. Let me pose that same question to Bobby.
I guess I could tell you in the last 5 years that the community here in Saginaw has been growing to actually get more involved than ever. It is a must that we understand that we have to be at the table to make decisions, like, you know, so we all can actually be respected. So, and all in all, within the last 5 years, we've been working not only with the people in the past, but the young people who are going to be the future. And again, we're based on the idea of education being a priority to us, the idea of responsibilities that we have to take whether we like it or not. But uniting together is one of the most important things that we have to do in our community, not based on the idea of being held by the hand by somebody else, but the idea of teaching young people to speak up. Okay, and I do not want to convey with anybody that we need to be violent, but we need to use our heads, and we figure education has to be a priority.
Absolutely. That's excellent, Bobby. Let me go to Dan.
So there's a lot of issues I think that are important, but I'm going to pick two, and that's the census and voter registration, voter engagement. There's a lot of people who feel pretty negative about what's going on in government, and some of the people who are choosing not to vote. I was looking at this the other day. There's 33 states that have some form of voter suppression laws on the books now. Michigan won a major victory in the last election to turn that around. You know, where it's easier to vote now. You can vote by mail. You can vote the day of the election. You know, you can go in and demand a ballot the day of the election. So I'd say those are the most important two issues. But at the same time, you know, the same issues, you can apply those to every single community in the country. You know, it's the same for whites, African Americans. You know, voting, whoever gets out to vote, whoever completes the census, that's who's going to have the numbers for representation in Congress, the federal dollars. But so we have to think about the issues that are specific to our community, but you also have to look towards the future. We are the largest minority now, and we're moving slowly but surely towards a day where Latinos are the majority. And there's a professor, I was on a Zoom call with you the other day, Armando Rendon, and he said this very well, and it stuck with me. He said, you know, with the future in mind, it's us that's going to be having to figure out how to deal with China, with Russia, COVID-19. And if we don't keep that in mind and keep people engaged by encouraging them to complete the census, to vote, to stay aware of the issues, then what position are we going to be in when we're the majority?
That was good. Excellent, Dan. Let me go to Carmen, and then we'll wrap up with Mondo.
All right, so I'm an educator at heart, obviously, and I know, Clint, you have ties to the school system.
Oh, yeah.
You know, my biggest fear right now is that even with the population of the Latinx community growing, our rate of moving on to higher education is not par to other groups of students. So with this COVID, what really scares me is the fact that our students are not in the schools. The high schools, they're not in there getting guidance from counselors, getting pushed to look into higher education. And then the students, the Latinx students that were in college or the university, now they're back in their communities, disengaged with the higher education and the learning aspect. So that's my fear, that we've already, you know, we're already coming in at a lower rate anyways, and this is really going to push us back.
I agree. Mondo, let me pose that same question to you. What do you believe the most pressing issue is for the Latinx community?
Jobs. We need more opportunity. We need training. Training. I recruit 12th graders from anywhere around Saginaw. You know, if I can get my opportunity to get in the union. I encourage the Mexican community to be a small business owner like myself. There's opportunity there's opportunity for Mexicanos, and I've been fighting for it my whole life. With people, in construction, I cover 30 counties, and there's so much opportunity. I've been an agent for the union, Local 1098, La Una, for 10 years. And been a member for 20 years, and I recruit minorities. I need minorities now. I need females. I need Hispanics. I need the Black community. I just need minorities. I need to, because I've been pushing to where our Mexicanos and our people can't talk to the owners of these companies. I talk to them. I tell them we need opportunity. We need a chance, because the Hispanic community, we show that what we got once we're on the job. That's why I hire a lot of Hispanics, because when I get them on the job, they make themselves shine. All they need is an opportunity. So that's why I push training, and I offer training for any kind of minority, any kind of person, a female, especially a female, because it's more hard for me to place them. So I believe that if we educate our communities, especially Saginaw, and we get them the training that they need, we can give them good jobs, and good jobs mean good for the economy. The census is a big thing. We need everybody to do the census so we know where everybody's at, and education is big. I mean, there's so many issues in Saginaw that's been going on for years, and we need to get Hispanics. We need to get to run for office so we can get people that we can trust and that are going to do something for Saginaw, because we've been having this conversation for a long time.
Mhm.
And we need to do something about it. And we need to get people in place like this panel that's in front of us. We need to have them run for state senate. We need them to run for state rep. We need them to run for governor, whatever we can do. And we back them up. When we come together, there's no stopping us.
Mhm. And the importance of city council.
Yes.
I can't express that enough, because there's a saying that all politics is local, you know, and you get such a good view of how a community operates when you're on the ground, you know, and you're talking with friends and neighbors. And that's just, I have to highlight that coming from the city council, you know, I got to talk about that.
Right.
I love it. But let me shift a little bit. We're going to talk about education now, and we do have some educators on the panel. One of my priorities is to encourage our public education system to further lean in to teaching our students and trade skills. What are your thoughts? I'm going to pose this question to Monica. What are your thoughts? Do you think that this would be beneficial for our students? You know, how can our teachers and those like on the State Board of Education, how can we lean in a little bit more to help our students? I'm going to pose that question to Monica and then Carmen.
I'm muted. Okay. Next to parents, our educators have the most influence on our students. And so it's up to our families and our parents and, you know, brothers and sisters to make sure that we are in a good school, that we're with good educators. And then it's up to our educators to make sure we get everything we need. And that's what the school board does, is to kind of guide that through there. But I think in terms of our educators, making sure that we have accurate and up-to-date information, because for so long, so much was kept out of our classroom and out of our books. And I think it's up to them to become proactive, that they have the true stories about Daniel Boone and you know, the Alamo and, you know, the wars and how much, you know, we had Black military units, we had Hispanic military units, we had Indian Hispanic units that were all instrumental in us winning several of the wars. So all of that has to be brought into the classroom. So that's not all of it, but that's my opinion, that I think that some of those things have to be, and it's up to our educators to make sure that those are introduced to our students.
Mm-hmm. Carmen, let me pose that same question to you.
Can you repeat the question just to make
Yeah,
sure?
absolutely. One of my top priorities is, of course, public education. But what can we do to ensure that our teachers are talking about skilled trades, and what can they do to lean in a little bit more? We're not talking like surface level stuff. We're talking about understanding where our kids come from, because we understand that when we've seen some of the reports from the state of Michigan, over 50% of Latino children who live in Michigan are growing up in poverty. And I think that compounds and it ties into the education piece as well.
Okay, yeah. So, you know, one of the important things is advocating the parents, the aunts and uncles and whatnot. We have to advocate more for our students, and we need to get additional help within the system. The guidance counselors, because of the budget, have been cut tremendously. So now you have maybe 2 counselors for 150 students. But the problem is, it's in our culture. We are often grow up, like with me, I have like maybe 250 cousins. So we often grow up to not to speak up, right? We go along, collaboration is the key, and we're not competitive in nature. So we get lost in the mix of things in the education system. We sit in class and we're quiet. So we need more counselors, more teachers who recognize this and pull these students out of their shells, recognize their talents. Don't just say, oh, they're checked in and they're doing good, so let's just let them sit there. We need people who are bringing these students out of their shells and then showing them the opportunities that exist there. And, you know, one thing about the schools being out is, you know, you're missing those opportunities where schools would take students on these field trips, on the university campus, on the college campus, vocational, to tour the vocational schools. All of that is being missed, and it's going to have a great effect on what our current seniors or juniors or whatnot are going to do next year. They're kind of lost right now what they should be doing.
And we have a conversation I'm so excited about that's going to be coming up in June, and it's going to be Education 2.0. So that'll be probably the first weekend in June. We're going to talk about what our high school seniors are going to be doing as they go into their next steps, whether it's a skilled trade, whether it's college or university. We just want to make sure that our kids are prepared. My brother is a high school senior this year. He doesn't really have a defined path. So we want to just throw some options out there for our students and our parents, because it seems like there's more resources than ever, but I think there's still an access issue as well. So yes, I would just want to thank you so much for that, Carmen. And we do have some questions that are coming in, but just remember, you can hit *9 if you want to raise your hand, you have a question. And also you can use the chat feature in the comment section below. I'm going to get to Armando in a minute, but I have a question that I wanted to get some perspective from Dan and Bobby, because I think both of us were on a call last week with Senator Gary Peters. And this question was brought up, and I wanted to pose that question again. And it is, you know, I understand and applaud the federal government for moving quickly when it came to providing some relief for folks in our community and in our country with stimulus checks. But one of the most upsetting things that we talked about last week was that mixed status households weren't eligible to receive stimulus funds. So for mixed status families in Saginaw, what can we do to assist them? So I'm gonna start with Bobby, and then we'll go to Dan.
That's a good one, because in the long run, during the time that we had the virtual meeting, there was a lot of Latinos, Mexicanos in the state of Michigan crying the idea that they did not get their application on time, or some of these people didn't have the technologies to actually get on the laptop or do, you know, to fill out that application. So again, we were stuck with that, and by the time we knew it, it was too late. It was too late for these people to actually fill this application and get something in promising. But again, we're still at it. We're still trying to find ways to collaborate with some of these business people as soon as possible, because the second round is coming up. And again, we want to be there at the table. Again, not only be Saginaw, because we got a lot of complaints from Saginaw, some of our businesses here that didn't get anything, yet the bigger companies in the state of Michigan got all the money and left us with nothing. And again, like I said, it is still a cry out here in the state of Michigan, and we're on top of it.
Absolutely. And I love the work that you guys are doing at Radiant Life. But I think also on that call with Senator Peters, you know, Michigan is 10th largest in population, but yet we're 35th when it comes to federal funds to help our businesses and help our families. And there's a huge disparity there. So we have to look into that data to figure out where is the disconnect. You know, we know that there's some larger businesses who are able and have a little bit more access and pull, but we still know that folks are hurting here. Now, Dan, in your experience, I'm still gonna call it neighborhood house.
It will be called Neighborhood House for eternity. It's okay.
Okay. But I wanted to ask that same question to you, while mixed status families, I mean, what can we do to help them? I understand like food giveaways are good, but that is such, a temporary fix because they still might have that need, in 3 or 4 days from now.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's a short-term fix. There are a lot of nonprofit organizations like Samaritas Neighborhood House and all the organizations that help people that are still helping people during this crisis. We're collecting personal care items and distributing them, disinfectants. So we're doing actually some new things to help folks out. But in terms of the undocumented and the mixed status families, I mean, we have to advocate for fairness for them. People forget that the undocumented pay taxes just like we do. And that's where the money comes for these services. A lot of undocumented folks pay federal tax through their employer. And if you really want to break it down, look at income tax, federal income tax versus state sales tax. State sales tax dwarfs personal income tax. And I don't know about you, but when I go into the store and buy something, I got to pay sales tax, right? We all do. Unless you actually think, and there might be some people that think this, that an undocumented person can go into the store and not pay sales tax. That doesn't happen. We all pay it. And that's what it is for things in each and every state. So they're paying their fair share. So to cut them out of this, of this stimulus is just wrong. And then the administration went beyond that. They didn't just cut out the undocumented. If you were married to somebody who's undocumented, you didn't get stimulus money. I mean, you want to talk about unfair? That's as unfair as it gets. These are tax-paying people, regardless of their status. So I mean, we gotta have to advocate for what's fair. Bobby was talking, and they talked a little bit about on this call about the small business loans, right? So the stats came out today. If you're African American, you were 95% more likely to not get a small business loan. If you were Latino, it was 91 or 92%.
Wow.
So pretty much, and I think Asian was 71%. So I mean, come on, I mean, you can easily document the unfairness to people of color who are small business owners. It's in there in black and white. So it goes hand in hand with what we were talking about earlier. If we don't get out and vote to change these things, if we don't complete the census, we lose political power. If we don't vote, we lose political power. That's the only way to
it's
change
systemic.
Because they're not going to happen under the current administration.
No.
Hey, Clint.
Yeah.
I just want to add, this is where I think that we need to educate people like Senator Peters, along with Congressman Kildee and Stabenow, all these people who represent us, who got voted in by the people. They need to sit down with us so they can understand the direction that we have been taken, and we've never got respect for it. So it was an honor to have Senator Peters, because it was hard to get him on. But again, like I said, that's just the first step that we're taking. And again, it's not the end of it. But we need to educate these people.
Absolutely. And that's part of the reason why I'm running. And we're having those conversations because we have to tell our stories. There's nobody else that's going to be able to tell our story better than somebody who has lived through poverty, somebody who has tried to get an education and who has personally seen those barriers. So that's why I'm just so excited, because there's so much power on this call tonight. Because we're talking about issues, but we're also going to be talking about solutions. So I want to talk a little bit more about the business community. So I'm going to shift right now to Armando. And the question I have for Armando is, what should we do keep in mind about Latinx-owned businesses during this time? What can we do to support them? And how might you advise customers to communicate with them?
As a business owner, I was born and raised in Saginaw. I pretty much know everybody on this panel some way or form. I had an opportunity to buy a small business, and I went with it, and I didn't realize how much the community depended on me for food. I mean, I closed down for 2 weeks when the COVID hit really hard, and I had to protect my family and my mom. She's 82 years old, so I closed, but then I opened back up because I didn't realize my phone would not stop ringing. I opened Tony's and we need you, we need the support, we need food. And, I didn't realize it. And people depend on me, and I have to stay open as a small business owner. And, people come in and how did you um, become a small business owner? I said, I never gave up and I kept trying, and everything worked out. And you can do the same thing. I encourage people like they encourage me. I talk to people about registered voting. I talk about getting in the union. I talk to them about there's opportunity out there. It's just we have to engage. We have to engage into the community to teach them, to train them. And I'm always recruiting every day of my life. I recruit for the Lord. I recruit for the union. I recruit for everything I can. And I owe everything to the Lord for everything He's taught me to be a small business owner. I applied for the PPPO loan, and I called my bank, and they was like, well, I did it as soon as possible, and they just threw me to the curb. They didn't give me no opportunity. They just said, well, we're going to look at it as soon as we can. I knew it was the round, and I never gave up. And the small business is doing successfully, and I like to engage with the community. So Clint, anything that you need, I got your business cards in there. We need a person like you in office so we can, because a lot of Mexicanos, if you don't engage in them, they don't engage in you. So if you're not out there saying, hey, this is Clint Bryan or this is Gary Peters, that's the problem with Gary Peters is he doesn't engage in the Latino community. If he does, he would get the votes and get where he needs to be, but he has to engage. Bobby's been fighting for us since I was a little kid. And to have a sit down with Gary Peters, he should get off, like as soon as Bobby calls him, say, yeah, Bobby, where do you want to meet at? We have to engage in these people. They're accountable. If they don't do anything for the Mexican community, then I'm going to be very blunt. We have to replace him and get somebody else in there. I've been with Debbie Stab now for I don't know how many years, and she's engaged with us. She answers phone calls. She shows up when she says, and I think Gary needs to do that too. And he does need to sit down, and we need to tell him how it is and what we need, because he's a powerful person.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things. I can't even imagine being a senator, a U.S. senator, and I know they have a very full plate. But I know one of my goals as a council person was to go in and meet people where they are. I think there's such power in that, and just even tonight, it's just listening. I think that's the most important when you start talking about the future. We have plans and things like that have been developed, but it's the most important thing is for us to listen. I got a question for, and then anybody, if you want to raise your hand. But one of the things I wanted to talk about was some of the health disparities when it comes to COVID-19. We're seeing it affect the African American community. We're seeing it affect the Latino community. But I wanted to talk with you guys tonight a little bit about how can we address this virus, and how can we ensure that we decrease the inequities and the implicit bias when it comes to this virus. Let me go with Ms. Monica.
Yeah, so I was on a call this morning with the newly appointed person to the governor's disparity for the COVID virus, receiving services. And one of the things that I talked to her about is that, we don't know what questions to ask because we are not receiving the data. So they're giving numbers of 44,000 that have died in Michigan, but I don't know how many of them are Latino. And so then they told me, well, 9% of Latinos are being affected. 9% are Latino that are being affected. And I said, well, what does that mean? Because if we have a total population, is that our total population of Latinos, 114,000 here in Michigan? And is 9% of that number, or is 9% of total population in Michigan? So they are not clearly identifying what percentage of Latinos are being affected by the virus, the percentage of Latinos that are actually able to receive testing and be treated by, for the virus. We don't have that data. So we cannot ask effective questions or relevant questions because we need the data. So, you know, that's where I'm going to start this conversation. And I know I'm in the community working hard on the census, but we have a really good group of people, you know, Bobby, Daniel, and a few others are all working on this COVID-19 and the effects of COVID-19 in our community, but they need data also. And we need that data. We need our representatives. We need the governor. We need everybody else to think about providing this data to us so that we know how to ask the appropriate questions.
Bobby, do you want to jump in on that one when it comes to talking about the health care disparities as it relates to the Latinx community and really trying to do our best to decrease those inequities, but also we have to recognize that there is implicit bias that's built into this system as well.
Very short, Clint, the idea that I brought that to the attention of our board members of LEAD. And the idea is that if we don't have data in the state of Michigan, how many Latino Mexicanos have died from this virus, we'll never know how to step up. Because again, it's very important that we get to know what we're dealing with in the state of Michigan. I mean, are we considered Anglo? Are we considered Mexicans, Latino? You know, that is something that's been very confusing in many years. But again, I think in the long run, our needs right now is to find out how many Latinos have we lost in the state of Michigan. Not only that, but also in the prisons. We got people in prisons that also we need to contend with, okay? So that is one of my concerns. We don't have the data, then we're not gonna go anywhere. We're just gonna be going around in circles.
Well, and that's one of the things, everybody who's on this call tonight, please go to my website, clintbryant.com. And if you want it in Spanish, you can get it on esclintbryant.com. But we really delve deep into criminal justice because that is extremely important in our state. So please take a look at that. Some of the things that we've been seeing out of the state of Michigan is risk algorithms. And we know that those risk algorithms for pre-trial sentencing, those are skewed against people of color and over-patrolled populations. Right. I mean, it's just, you have to look at that data because it's all right there. But you're not hearing that in many other places. So that's why I'm glad to take the position that I do. Also, I think we need to end cash bail. It needs to be done in the state of Michigan. So please take a look at that when you get some time. We delve deep into that because that's one of the things that really is upsetting. I know that when I worked in Lansing previously, we had conversations with parents whose children were incarcerated. And we have to do a full investigation when it comes to human rights abuses as well. I mean, somebody has to be a voice, I mean, and talk about human rights and dignity and respect. So yeah, take a look at that. I encourage you to go to that website, go to our website, because it's just extremely important.
And Clint, I just want to add the idea that I got a text today that this one person out of Muskegon had a great concern that we have lost 47. Now, whether he was talking about just one site in the prison, I don't know, but we've lost 47 already.
Wow. I know my cousin Dan works as an officer, and you know, some of the stories that he shared with me is wow.
At Lakeland Correctional Facility, the infection rate is 79%, just a hair under 80% of the inmates have corona, tested positive.
And that's the thing, because there's really no way. And initially, what MDOC had told our guards in there was to not wear a mask. They had given them direction to not wear a mask, and to me, that made absolutely no sense. They didn't want to create a crisis. We are in a crisis, but they didn't want to alarm anybody who is incarcerated. But at the same time, you have folks who are coming in and out of there every day. I mean, if they're going to Meijer to shop, if they're going to, say it's even touch a door handle, You know, this stuff we just don't have enough accurate data to figure out how this is going to spread. And I completely disagree with MDOC when it comes to advising them not to wear a mask. And I just feel like we can do better as a state, because the masks that they were given were made in the Upper Peninsula out of former jumpsuits. So, I mean, and those are about as thin as paper. I mean, to me, it's alarming that we cannot do better as a state. But I just feel like when we know better, we can do better. And it's completely unacceptable. So my cousin has started making some masks for some of the guards for where our cousin is, but still, that's not going to be enough. And that's a lackluster response from the state of Michigan.
Hey, Clint, I just wanted to touch base on one thing real quick, because Bobby was talking about data and the numbers regarding, different races. One of the problems when it comes to Latino people, and part of this is the census, is when you consider race, when it comes to the federal government, there's two races, black and white. So what are all of us on the panel? I don't know. My sister's on the call right now. We had to have a conversation about how you answer that question, because, we're not either. Higher education like SVSU, MSU, they solved the problem because you can select Hispanic or Latino as a race. The correctional system, they're one of the worst ones at it. If you're sentenced to prison, you have to self-declare your race as a Latino person, meaning you have to say, I'm Latino, or the person doing the intake form classifies you however they want.
Wow.
I mean, it's just crazy. And we as a people have to come forth and we have to demand that be fixed, because we'll never know the real numbers on a lot of these statistics if we don't fix that. We have to do what higher ed did and, and have folks recognize this as race. It's only an ethnicity in the federal government's eyes.
We do have someone that has their hand up. I would encourage our folks, thank you, Dan, for that. Encourage our folks who are on the call tonight or joining us via video. You can, if you're joining us via video, you can put your questions in the comments section below. But if you are on the line, you can hit *9 and you can raise your hand and then we'll queue you up. But we do have a caller who is on right now. So I'm going to ask my team if they would patch them in. But I want to encourage my friends who are on this call, if you would please go to clintbryant.com, sign up to volunteer. And we do have our website in Spanish. That's paramount to me, that we're able to communicate with everyone in our community, and that's es.clintbryant.com. So I'm going to ask my team if they can patch one of our questions through. Turn it up. Hello?
Hello.
Hello. Go ahead with your question.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear us? Thank you for joining us tonight. Go ahead with your question.
Okay, I posed this and nobody has brought up. I know I've had contact with you guys in the past. Is there anything that you guys are doing to encourage employment among Latinos on the census website? We have definitely had a lot of flatlining in the low count districts of applicants for the Census Bureau, and they are still recruiting for people on the website. But a lot of people just don't know because of all the COVID stuff. So I don't know if there's any businesses that we can have any recruiting materials sent to or anything like that. There's also a town hall that is going on too, that submitting questions, I know, for everybody for tomorrow with the senators. I don't know if anybody is aware of that email. But
I think we have, thank you for calling in, Alicia, and we'll get to that question in a second. We do have, there is a 7 p.m. tomorrow with Congressman Kildee and then Congressman Molinar. But I'm gonna.
Yeah, that's something I didn't know if anyone was aware that was going on too tomorrow, because there's a lot of people that can submit questions. And I know a lot of the subject that we talked about today seems like a good outlet for reaching out to those.
Well, let me
groups as well.
let me encourage you. We do have a volunteer call tomorrow. Um, so just after we wrap up our volunteer call, that's a shameless plug. Go ahead and join our Congressman Dan Kildee with the Fighting Fifth. He's a good guy, great guy. Worked with him a lot. But I'm going to pose that question that you had, Alicia, to Dan and Monica. We'll start with Monica because I know they have a hands-on knowledge and they're working very closely with the census. So let me just hand it over to Monica.
Yeah, so they're getting ready to start hiring again through the census, and I know Alicia knows that. So we are posting on our Facebook page. We have over 750 members on that page, but I'd also like to encourage everybody on this call or Zoom call to go ahead and share our post about employment. They're paying between $18 and $24 an hour for our census workers, and we do need Spanish-speaking census workers to help because they're going to start going door to door for those who have not completed their census, but there's still time to complete the census online and by phone. So yes, we will provide opportunities for them to go ahead and share it on their social media sites and encourage everybody to share those posts with family members and friends who are looking for employment at this time.
Wonderful. Let me, I do have a question. Remember, folks, you can leave your questions in the comment section. Me and my team are committed to making sure that we respond to every single one of those. If you are on the call, hit *9 to raise your hand. But I do have a question for our panelists who are joining us tonight. I wanted to know, give me 2 tangible things that should be our top priority when it comes to the Latinx priorities for any state representative that we send to Lansing. So I'm gonna start with Armando, and then we'll go to Carmen. And I have this question. Uh-oh, I see Dan's Dan's
My
friend.
cat, sorry,
I didn't know if you're, hey, the cat didn't RSVP.
Yeah, right. She'll vote for you though.
Hey, there we go. That's what I'm talking about. Team Brian all day. What are 2 tangible things that we can do, and what you guys expect out of a representative that our district sends to Lansing? So we'll start with Mondo first.
I'm going to say jobs, training. We need to train our Hispanic community. A lot of them don't have the opportunity to get into training. You know, they're not educated, or they're too scared to engage. So we need to engage them. I do it every day. I find a lot of Hispanics that have a lot of skills and they don't know that they have them. We have to engage them for voting. You know, if you don't, with the Mexican community, if you don't engage them and let them know what's going on, how crucial it is for them to go out there and vote. I do a lot of door to door just to educate the community, especially in Saginaw and the bad neighborhoods. A lot of people don't engage. We have to engage and find out where their Hispanics are so we can get them out and get them out to vote. You know, we need to tell them how crucial it is to get out and vote, especially this year. We have to educate them. That's the key, is to educate them and go out there, engage them, go to door and tell them there's opportunity with unions, and I got opportunities to get anybody that wants to work for good paying jobs. So I'm going to say education. I mean, I got more than 2 things, but you know, I'll just go with educating them about voting, and I think that's in training, because there's so much opportunity with them, with all this infrastructure getting done. We are lacking manpower. I'm telling you, we have 1,500 members, and I'm going to say about this year, we're going to engage, and we're going to recruit another 150, maybe 200 people. So anybody that you know that's a young person or a skilled person, let them go to local1098.org and get a job through us, and let us train you and put you to work.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mondo. Appreciate that. Let me go to Carmen.
So the two things that jumped out right away is, again, opportunities, like I mentioned before, giving students the opportunity. Where I work at SVSU, for example, there are numerous camps, whether it's science camp or math camp, but often they're not affordable to our families and to our students. So we have to ensure that there's some kind of funding, and with that transportation, obviously, because a lot of families can't get their children there, that we have to say, okay, for this camp, there's going to be so many students of color required, or we'll have grants or scholarships for them to attend. The other thing, again, is technology. Our families often don't have the money. We don't have funds necessarily to hire tutors if our student doesn't understand the math, or send them to Sylvan Learning Center. We don't have those funds. So I'm hoping that your campaign can increase the funding so that we can offer centers that offer this technology for students so they can keep up with the education.
I know, even, thank you, Carmen, so much. One of my focuses has been to provide, do what we can to provide access to our kids and our students in the district. I've had conversations with Dr. Roberts on what we can do. So there's a few different options that we're talking about even now, you know, at this level, because a Chromebook is good, but if you can't connect it to the internet, it might as well be a piece of cardboard.
Right.
You know, so we are working on that. We know that cost is an issue, but even just access to our students that might live out in Zilwaukee or live out in the country in Bridgeport. I mean, in the rural community, it's just as much a priority that we have access out there as well. So it's not just us in the city. But thank you, Carmen. Let me go to Bobby. Talk about two tangible things that should be the top priority when it comes to the Latinx community for any representative that our district sends to Lansing.
Again, let me go back by saying I'm not too crazy about the politics, Democrats, Republicans, Independent, but I think what is important is the backyard that I live in, and the people who are struggling. And I think in the long run, being Mr. Ramos said, education and trade skills are very important. We need to work on that very, very soon and get our kids off the streets and into these programs. But where in heavens do you find these programs when we're never included? That is one thing that I would not be afraid to say to the community, because again, we are left out. We're left out, and I don't care whether it be a community center or whatever, but we're left out. And again, I know I've been at it for 29 years. So again, like I said, I have to stick with the idea that we're dealing with children at one time what we call babies having babies. Some of these ladies that never finished school and again didn't know how to be a parent. So we're dealing with the idea of our third graders, our sixth graders to prepare for education, and then with our other young men, young ladies, trading skills. So I'd have to stick with the idea of Mr. Ramos draws a good point on the idea of getting ready for that.
Thank you, Bobby. And that's what we've seen. We've seen the exodus of, folks who are my age, who are leaving the community because of a lack of opportunity. And I think it ties into access. That's the biggest thing. So I want you guys, I will definitely share with everyone who's on this call. We're going to have another Roundtable Education 2.0 that's geared for our high school students and seniors, and for parents as well, to talk about what those next steps are. But as we begin to wrap up, I want to go to Bobby, and then we'll finish with Ms. Monica. So if you could just tell me, what do you think?
Bobby.
Oh, I mean, I'm sorry, Dan. I'm trying to come to you, Dan.
It's okay. Yeah, I thought that's what you meant.
Do it, Dan.
I know Bobby will take extra time.
Dan and I do.
He's my neighbor.
Right. Well,
he's my neighbor, so it's okay.
Yeah. Well, Bobby was saying about us not us getting left out. I think the reason a lot of that happens, and this is one thing that's tangible we can do to change that, is we got to educate more people in our community on how the system works, whether it's the governmental system, the nonprofit systems. People are really disillusioned because they don't understand how those things work. People don't vote because they don't understand how what they're voting for, how districts are drawn. You know, where's the 95th district lie? I mean, how many people can know that off the top of their head? I mean, I think the more education people have about those systems, they're more likely to take advantage of the opportunities that are laid out for them, and be more encouraged to speak up. You know, there's a lot of people out there who have great things to say, great ideas on how to change some of the issues that we face. But a lot of times they don't speak out because they don't know how to speak out or speak publicly or not comfortable doing it. You know, one of the things that we've talked about with the parent school partnership that Bobby and Angela are working on is just doing some training with people like, hey, this is how you speak in front of a crowd. This is what you need to know. This is what you need to do to be able to do that comfortably. I mean, it's not every good speaker or person who's willing to speak out is like a natural born speaker. Okay. But you can learn how to get up in front of a meeting, give your perspective, and give your opinion.
And you have that gene. That's in your DNA, Dan.
I had to learn it too. You know, and then I told Bobby and Angela, I said, hey, I'd be happy to pass what I've learned on, because I was horrible. I hated public speaking before I was taught, you know, this is what you're doing wrong. This is what you need to do to change it. And I think it's like that for a lot of people.
And think of what would have happened if you would have remained silent and not share with us. You know, it's the impact and the work that you're doing over there, you know, whatever organization you're with. I mean, I know what your priorities are and I know your heart. So
yeah, this is how bad I was though. When I was, I accepted a scholarship in high school, and I thank my brothers and sisters. I don't have any brothers. Yeah, so that's how nervous and bad I was at it when I was in high school. So yeah,
oh my goodness.
My sister still laughs about it.
Hey, if we would have had Facebook or smartphones, we could be reliving that with you. But you're fortunate to not to not be in that. I see. I have to say hi to Adam. I see Adam right behind Carmen. Hey, how's it going, Adam? Good to see you, brother.
That's my brother, Clint Boogie. Boogie.
Yeah.
It's great.
Brian, 2020. We need 2024. 2024. We need you, brother. We need you.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us as well, Adam. I'm gonna wrap up tonight with this last question to Monica. You know, give me 2 tangible things that should be the top priority when it comes to the Latinx community for any individual or representative that we send to our state capital.
Yeah, I think that I'm going to agree with both Bobby and Daniel and Armando. We need to promote strategies to better civically engage our Latino community. And if that means a program like the Henry Marsh Institute, which is doing a great job, and some of our Latinos have also entered that program, but we need them to, our elected officials and our leaders across the board to invest in programs that will help train young Latinos to become engaged in civic engagement through, being elected themselves as congressmen, city council, or whatever. We need that. The other thing we need to do is improve the growth rate of Latino-owned businesses. And, we don't know why the economic advancement isn't happening for Latinos as well as it should be. But we have a lot of Latino entrepreneurs out there that need that startup money, that need those coaching individuals to come in and help them with their business and help them become successful. Because if we don't start focusing on that, if we don't start focusing on investing in our Latino community, how can we contribute if we're not given the fair chance and equal chance that other communities are given? So those are my 2 issues.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Ms. Monica, and everyone for joining us tonight. We do have to wrap up shortly here, but I just wanted to say thank you to each and every one of you. There's so many other things that you could be doing at home, but you took time to come out tonight. And one thing that I can say is that I see each and every, before COVID-19, I got to see each of you often. That's because we're in the field and we're in this field together because we know what is at stake. So I just want to say thank you for taking the time to join us tonight. This is streaming on YouTube as well. But I just want to encourage everyone to go to clintbryant.com or es.clintbryant.com. You can always text Clint to 22999, and you can connect with us there on more things about our policy agenda, upcoming events. I talked about a few of those earlier about Education 2.0. And some of the other roundtables, our small business roundtable that we'll be hosting. We're going to post about that probably in the next couple of days. So please stay in touch with us. You can always contact me with my social media handle, Clint Bryant MI. But just thank you so much. I've learned so much from being on this call, and I want you to know that the issues that we spoke about tonight are issues that we're going to elevate when I go to Lansing. So but I'm going to take our stories with us, and thank you guys so much for joining us on this call tonight. And stay tuned. We have some really fun and innovative things while we're still going through the stay home order. So as Bobby does know, I think almost everybody, I've either been to their house or they've been to mine. So we know that we love to entertain. Yesterday, I released my quarantine playlist. So take a look at that. But otherwise, guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And I hope we get to connect again real soon. All right, take care.
Thank you.
Yes.